It's the Spin Market Report. Here's your host, Peter Stockdale.
Thanks everybody. Thanks Mackenzie for the intro. We're sitting out today with Barb Michaels and Linda Donner of the Badger Lake Dragon Boat Bash. So something we were talking about just before, well, it started out with this 2024 Dragon Boat Bash at Badger Lake, which is Kennedy Park, for those that don't know, is August 9th and 10th. Correct. All right. So we got that much down. So for those that have never heard about it, what is dragon boating?
Well, dragon boating is one of the fastest growing water sports in the world. It's adrenaline filled, 20 paddlers. It's for anybody, any age, whether you've been in a boat or not. It's a lot of fun, community activity, or it can be an elite sport. Depends on what your interest is, but it's 20 paddlers in a boat, 250, 350, 500-meter sprint, whatever your race course is set up for. Go for the end of the race. Go for that finish line.
And our race here in Fort Dodge is open to anyone 14 and above. We have a junior division where we have youth paddling, and we have people as old as 80 in the boat.
Oh, cool.
So any age paddler is allowed to come out and paddle.
But
That's
our youth
awesome.
division is actually 11 and above.
Well, true. I was thinking of the adult team. You're correct. Yeah. Our youth division does allow 11-year-olds and above.
So long as their feet touch the bottom of the boat.
Oh, cool. All right. So you got a little, it's almost like you got to be this tall, but your feet got to be this long
Gotta be this
to ride the ride.
You have to be this tall to ride.
We don't want to lose anybody going down the lake.
Makes sense. So you said 20 paddlers, right?
Correct.
So, but earlier I think you mentioned 22 people in the boat, right?
Yes, every boat has 22 people in it, so there are 20 paddlers, and then there's a drummer that sits on a tiny little seat in the front, and a steerer in the back, which we provide, because it's not easy once you get the momentum going with 20 paddlers to steer those boats. The drummer's responsibility is to keep everybody in sync. So ultimately, you want those 20 paddlers paddling together in the boat. So I can tell the story. We were in Dubuque, and the football team raced against the cheerleaders. Now, you would think that the football team would win, right? No. The cheerleaders won because they knew how to paddle together because they worked together as cheerleaders, right? The football team tried to muscle their way down the course, but they couldn't paddle together.
So the cheerleaders started out with ready, okay, and then they started paddling.
There we go.
1, 2, 3, 4.
So that's what the drummer does. The drummer keeps the paddlers in sync together.
All right, so we got to go through this, though. Paddling and rowing, what's the difference?
Rowers sit backwards. Paddlers sit forwards.
I got corrected about that.
Yes.
They are not rowing, they're paddling.
I should have wrote it down because I hope I don't say rower later.
I know I'm going to throw it in there on accident.
Everybody who has not done the sport calls it rowing, and we constantly correct them because we want them to understand the difference between sitting forward or sitting backwards. When you row a boat, you're rowing backwards.
Yeah.
When you paddle forward.
Yeah, okay.
So you're looking forward where you're going.
Yeah, we like to see the finish line.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You don't want to be looking behind at all the losers behind you.
Oh, I love it.
But it's a lot of fun. You know, it's a great community activity. Kennedy Park is beautiful, and they've been kind to us for many, many years. And it's just a great opportunity. You know, we've had teams we have one team that's just a group of family friends that get together every year and do this. We have some businesses that do it. So it's just a great opportunity to pull a bunch of people together and get in the boat and have a good time.
Yeah.
We have one team that's just bar friends, but I mean, literally,
Literally.
they are. They have just a bunch
awesome.
of friends that get together once a year, and they practice. Teams are allowed to practice twice. They get together, they practice, and then they go out and paddle against each other, and that's all, the twice a year is all they ever do it.
Wow.
So you mentioned Kennedy Park. I have to say I hadn't been there in like maybe this is 4 or 5 years. It had been a while since I'd been there, but I went there recently, and it's amazing. I mean, they keep doing upgrades to it. The trail around the park, I mean, it just looks so gorgeous. It's a great place. I bet it's just fun to sit and watch.
It is absolutely beautiful at Kennedy Park. You know, our origin actually was the Des Moines River.
Okay.
So we started out on the river. Linda, you're better at that.
27 years ago.
Yeah, but we did what, 3 years?
3 years we were on the river. As a matter of fact, it started as a Rotary project to help clean up the river. They thought it was a great project to get people's drawn attention to the river to clean up the river. It was something Rotary thought this would be a great way to get people to come down and help clean up the river. And it was a good idea to help clean up the river. But then we had a year where the river was really low. And we thought, we're going to have to cancel because, you could have walked across the river that
Oh,
year.
wow.
Oh,
Like
wow.
no.
it was going to be pick up your boat and carry it.
That's one way to be able to clean the river.
And they're like, okay, what are we going to do? And we were like a month out before the festival, and we actually had a lot of out-of-town teams coming that year, and they said, so we said, well, why don't you just move it to Kennedy and do it out there? We moved it out to Kennedy, and all of a sudden everybody's like, this is a great venue. This is a perfect place to have it. Why are you doing this at the river? Well, because it was started as a project to clean up the river, but yet Kennedy became such a natural location, and there were so many people that loved it. They were like, why would we go back to the river?
Yeah.
So we moved out there, and year 3, we moved to the river, and we've been there ever since. We moved to the Kennedy. We've been there ever since.
Nice.
And we actually started with what's called a Taiwan dragon boat. So there's a couple different styles of dragon boats. And we started with the Taiwan dragon boat, which is a much heavier dragon boat. So it was what's called a flag catching boat. So anybody that paddled it back in the beginning, it's about 1,500 pounds empty. And then you put 18 bodies in it, a flag catcher, and a steerer and a drummer. So in that boat, you would race to the finish line, and you would finish by the person who was the flag catcher getting out on the head of the dragon and pulling a flag, and that's how you won.
Oh, wow.
But those boats were 1,500 pounds empty. Then you load it with people. So imagine how heavy and how hard that was to paddle. Well, eventually, and they, and as Linda said, this was a project of Daybreak Rotary many years ago. Well, eventually, Daybreak Rotary divested of this project, and we formed the Badger Lake Dragon Boat Association, and we purchased what's called the BUK, or the Hong Kong style dragon boat. And these are a much lighter racing hull. So they weigh roughly about 440 pounds. So they're much easier to paddle. So everybody who has that dark memory of, oh my God, I'm never getting in one of those things again. These are much easier. We can put 10 people around this boat and lift them off the trailers. So these are much easier to move.
Wow.
And they're much faster when they paddle.
But these are also the boats that the serious competitive paddlers practice in and use. So you can be a really competitive paddler, or you can be a recreational paddler and use these boats. And so both type of paddlers can come out here. So we can have serious teams and we can have recreational teams. Whereas the other boat were really just truly for recreational paddlers. Serious paddlers weren't going to use them because they couldn't do a serious paddle in them without getting hurt. Whereas these are the type of boat any paddler can use, which is one of the reasons why we decided to sell the other boats and get into these, that anybody could use them. And we actually had, clear back in 2005, we hosted nationals and had to rent some of these boats in order to be able to host nationals. And that's when we really realized the huge difference in the boats. And we had a number of teams saying, wow, I want those other boats.
I didn't even think about that. It can affect
Your shoulders.
you could be more likely to be injured.
Yeah, shoulder damage. And
Oh my goodness.
yeah.
So I've written down here, it's the 27th year of dragon boating, and I said at Badger Lake ? But we actually just talked about that.
Yeah.
You guys were on the river first.
Yeah,
That's
3
pretty.
years on the river.
3 years.
So let's go back even further than 27 years. How did dragon boating even start? I've got a little tidbit down here that it's possibly from ancient China as a fertility ritual, but you guys were going to correct me. So let's see what we've got.
It did start in ancient China, and what we know, so there's probably a million different versions of it out there, correct? But what we know, the version we know, is it came from the village of Chu. And there was, a lot of political unrest. And there was a famous statesman named Chu Yuan, who the people loved. But there was, in the political unrest, he was falsely accused of, going against the higher ups. And so then he was banned from the village and basically committed suicide by throwing himself in the Milo River. Well, the local people race to the river in an effort to save his body. The fishermen all rushed their boats out to the river and started thrashing the water to keep the fish away from him. So they were beating their drums on their fishing boats and thrashing the paddles in the water, and then throwing rice dumplings into the water. So over the years, that evolved into what became the dragon boat, the Chinese Dragon Boat Festival, and that always happens on the
May 5th.
No, it's the fifth, the lunar, whatever it is, the fifth month of the lunar
The fifth day,
calendar.
the fifth
Yeah.
day of the fifth month
of the lunar calendar. So it happens sometime between late May and June,
the
depending
festival
on the
of the fifths or something
yeah,
like
it's
that.
called.
So it's basically the same thing now, just no rice patties getting thrown into the.
Except for in China, actually.
They still do it
They
there?
Oh, yeah.
actually do, yes.
Awesome.
So that's the Chinese festival is quite a sight to see. It's a holiday in China.
Wow.
And
Have you guys gotten to go out to it and see it?
we've been to Thailand, but we've not been to China.
What?
And we
Yeah.
officiated in Thailand, 4 years ago?
That's
we
crazy.
officiated at a world championship in Thailand.
But
Wow.
one of the things we do at the world level is still hold tight to the original cultures of the sport. So that's what the drumming is all about. So when you're competing at a world dragon boat event, you must drum. So teams don't like, elite level teams don't like to drum, because really when that drum beat hits the back of the boat, it's off, right? You're not hearing the true sound
yeah.
anymore. So you'll see them trying to fake that drum, like they'll pretend like they're hitting it, but our umpires will follow the boats to make sure they're actually drumming. So they can be silent for the first 50 meters of a race, but after that they must drum. So that's one of the cultural things we require them to do. So at the world level, we still hold tight to some of the original cultural aspects of the sport. They do the awakening of the dragon ceremony, where they dot the eyes of the dragon in the beginning of a championship, and they'll usually bring in monks to do that and make an offering to the dragon. So they our international level, they hold very tight to the cultural aspects.
So what's the reason behind the dragon part?
Well, interesting, nobody really knows that for sure. So it had a lot to do, I think, with the Chinese culture, why they adorned the boat with a dragon.
The Chinese, though, think the dragon is a symbol of good luck. I mean, the dragon is, and I don't know how to explain, but the dragon is a sign of good luck. I mean, so that's why they awaken the dragon, and they bless the dragon. I mean, they give it flowers, they give it
Fruit,
money. I mean,
I never got the money part. What's the dragon got to do with money?
they burn incense under the dragon's nose, and they give it money. We do a small awakening of the dragon at the beginning of our festival, because you always want to awaken your dragon so you have good racing.
Well, we replicate what the world championships. We try to replicate it. We don't quite.
We don't have a monk to open ours. I mean, we haven't seen any. I haven't found too many in Fort Dodge.
Yeah.
to invite out.
Probably
But
not.
we try to use a dignitary or someone we invite out to help with the awakening. But I mean, we do go through. We read the ceremony and go through the steps of the eye dotting, and you do put red paint on the dot on
the eyes
of
to
the
awaken
dragon to awaken him, and you
cool.
burn incense under their nose, and you put what they say. You burn paper money. We use fake money, but you go ahead and you start paper money on fire, and then you light firecrackers to awaken the dragon to start the racing, and that's to help bring good.
It's just a tradition.
Yeah.
So we're talking Badger Lake Dragon Boat. You're in Little Webster County, Iowa, but we were also talking about how this is an international thing. It's not just with us. So are you guys part of like maybe like a national or international kind of organization of any sort, or is this like an independently run, just you guys are doing this kind of thing?
Well, the Badger Lake Dragon Boat Association runs the event. So when Daybreak Rotary decided they were no longer going to run the Badger Lake Dragon Boat Bash, a group of us had been doing it for a number of years, decided we thought this was a good thing for Fort Dodge. And we actually had a lot of teams that would come here to compete. And there was, at that point, I think there were 3 or 4 festivals in Iowa or in the immediate Midwest. So we decided we weren't going to let it disappear. So we formed the Badger Lake Dragon Boat Association, and it's a nonprofit entity. So we produce the event locally. There are large companies that produce events throughout the country, but they're quite expensive. So it would have, our entry fees $500. Minneapolis just had an event that used one of those large producers, and their entry fee is $1,800. So that gives you a perspective of hiring one of those companies versus us owning our own boats and producing it ourselves. We are members of what's called the American Dragon Boat Association, which is a regional governing body for the sport here in the U.S. And then the American Dragon Boat Association is a member of the United States Dragon Boat Federation, which is the governing body for the sport in the country. And they are subsequently members of the International Dragon Boat Federation, which is the world governing body.
Oh, wow. So this is like officially
yes.
Dragon Boats.
Yes.
It's not like you're just doing this for fun.
No.
But one of the things, because of the fact that we were fortunate enough that Rotary had invested and bought 2 boats. So then when we became the Badger Lake Dragon Boat Festival, we had always said we would take all of our funds, we would continue to invest into the festival. We bought 2 more boats that next year. And then, when Rotary divested, that was the first, what they did do is they gave us their 2 boats. So that was when they decided to quit having it. They gave Badger Lake their first 2 boats, and then we went ahead and continued on. But what that gave us the ability to do as a nonprofit was keep our fees low and continue to build on. But we have a following of teams in the Midwest. We actually, for the last few years, we've had more out-of-town teams than in-town teams because we have the reputation of running a clean, fun race. I mean, we have teams from Wisconsin. Now don't this year, we've had teams from Texas. We always have teams from Kansas, Minnesota, Illinois. I mean, we have teams from pretty much all over the Midwest. We'll drive or fly. We fly to Fort Dodge to do our race because there's not a lot of races in the Midwest. I mean, there's some, but ours is very fair priced. It's a good race. It's a fun race. And even though it's only a one-day race, these teams, like I said, we had a team 2 years ago fly in from Texas. We have teams that always come from Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota, every year that come down for a race.
What's the farthest somebody's come from? Do you know?
The furthest would be
probably
Philadelphia.
Probably the year we had U.S.
Nationals,
National Championships. We had teams from the West Coast, from the East Coast.
That's right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's cool.
So how many boats, how many teams do you normally have?
In a regular year like this year, we have about 15 typically.
Yeah. Before COVID, first of all, we haven't gotten back to a before COVID year. I mean, we lost a lot of teams. We all lost a lot of teams through that.
Yeah.
Before COVID, we used to average 20 to 25 teams in some good years. Now, I feel like, this year looks like we're hoping to hit 16. I'd like to see us get back up to 20 to 25. Who knows? What we'll get up to. But like I said, it's been hard for teams to reform. Here in the Midwest, we lost a lot of festivals during COVID. I mean,
They just didn't reform.
They just didn't reform because it's very expensive to put a festival on, and unless you had reserves put away, it's been tough for teams to come. It's been tough for teams to get back together, and it's been tough for festivals to get back together.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of feel like the effects of that are just ever reaching. It's kind of going to everybody, every business, small businesses, small towns, that it's just kind of impacted everybody.
What we've seen the long-term effects were actually not only just the festivals, but it's been teams that lost, first of all, they had a whole year they didn't practice, a whole year they didn't, so then they lost a lot of members, and some people are just like, they didn't get back in the boat, so then they lost people altogether. It was just been really hard for teams to get back together, even to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of have like a dual role. So I'm actually president of the American Dragon Boat Association, the regional body.
Okay.
And then for the United States Dragon Boat Federation, I'm chair of the competition and technical committee.
Oh, cool.
So I run the United States national championships, and what we've seen happen at that level is most of our crews have moved into what we now call small boats. So we lost so many clubs, lost so many paddlers, that what's evolved is instead of the 20 boat races being popular, the 10-man boats now have evolved and become quite popular. So our sport has shifted from the standard boat, which is the 20 boat, to a 10-man boat.
So the 10-man, does that still have a drummer
Yep.
and
and
steer?
so it would be 12 people
Okay.
altogether.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, Barb and I are both officiating at a race in Canada next week. But what they've done is they haven't.
Just like how you just dropped that. Oh yeah, we're going to Canada.
We're going to Canada to do this.
Well, we're organizing, so I'm co-chairing the first United States, we call it the Can-Am, Canadian American Championship.
But instead of investing in 10-man boats, they're using their 20-man boats, but only putting 10 people in it.
That's because Canada can't afford it, but we can. We have our 10.
But they didn't want to spend the money on buying the small boats. They said, well, we're just going to put 10 men in them. In other words, we're going to use every other row. I said, you're what? Well, which I understand what they're saying, because they got people who want to do the 10-man race because they can't get 20 people.
But their excuse was, well, we don't want our clubs to have to buy 10-man boats. Well, our clubs
Had
race
to,
in 10-man boats, and they don't buy 10-man boats. So,
But I thought it was an interesting concept. I want to see how it works.
So does that so with them going down to 10-man, does that mean that, is there a possibility for you guys to kind of switch into the 10-man boats?
We've talked about it a little bit. Actually, there was a group up in Michigan that had 10-man boats for sale. And we talked about purchasing them, but they were not in very good shape. And
Yeah, they were used boats. And I said,
not that used boats are bad. I mean, we've bought used boats, but theirs were not in good condition.
Yeah.
and we have too much of an investment in our 20-man boats. First of all, we're not ready to replace our fleet. And I said, I hate to see us go away from it at this point in time. I said, I really would.
She's hard to take change.
So if we were going to do 10-person boat versus 20-person boat, is there going to be like a lot of speed difference going on there because you have extra people paddling? Got it right?
Oh, sure. I mean, it's a lot. I mean, when you
Chalk
got
one for you.
yeah, when you've got 20 people paddling a boat, it's definitely got to move faster than when 10 people paddle a boat.
Makes sense. Okay.
Because there's not a lot of differential actually in the boat. So the boats, when you look at the boats on the dock, the 10-man and the 20-man,
it's maybe about 3 feet difference in the size of the boat.
You do a double take, so you're like, which one's which?
Okay.
So
is there like a weight difference between the boats? Do you know, like
a little bit, but not significant.
3 feet of weight.
Yeah.
3 feet of weight.
Yeah.
Oh, that equates to about
a great measurement.
200 pounds difference right there.
So, but interesting, like in the last couple of weeks now, we've had a little flutter of activity. So we've had a couple more teams add. So that's exciting to us. So we'd really like to push, anybody else locally who wants to put a team together.
We're still taking teams.
We'll take teams up to the week of the event.
All right. So
let's do a 2-man team right now.
All right. Oh my gosh. So that's a good thing. I'm just going to kind of steer sideways here. So if you want to register or need any more information, www.badgerlakedragonboating.com is the place to go. There's all the information there. And if you have any inquiries, you can make them there as well. We're going to come back to that website, though, and plug it one more time at the end here. But I do want to know, what is the main purpose of dragon boating for you guys? I know you said originally it was on the river and you were going to clean up the river. Which I'm sure happened and it was great, but now you're at Kennedy Park. Are you cleaning up the lake, or like what is it like a community effort? Is it for like fundraising? Is it like I guess like what are the benefits for the people that are involved?
Well, it is for us. I think it is. It's a community effort, right? So it's something that it's an activity for community. It's something that Fort Dodge can tout, right?
Absolutely.
Here's another social activity in Fort Dodge. People always say there's nothing to do here, right? Well, here's a great activity. We do have a concert on Friday nights. We have concessions out there. We have a team dinner for our teams. So
cool.
It's something for the community on Friday night. We do have a silent auction that runs Friday night through midday Saturday that supports the Cancer Center. Because one of the things we did years ago was start a breast cancer survivor team. And so we always give back to Unity Point, to the Cancer Center. And one of the things we'd like to do is start an all cancer survivor team, which is growing in our sport, as well as a Power Dragon team, which is disabled athletes.
Oh, wow.
And then I think one of the things we also always try to do is give back to the park in some way.
Absolutely.
So we don't make a ton of money at the event. We make enough to sustain ourselves, but the silent auction, like I said, we give back to the hospital. And we always like to give back to the park because they give us so much.
Absolutely. I mean, did you have something to add? Or?
Well, and the other thing is, I always like to see us. We have an open youth team. We try to, and if there's any youth that want to be on the youth team is open to any young person 11 and above. So any child as an individual can sign up to be in the open youth team. We'll do a practice. That last week we announced that practice date that. So if there's a youth person that wants to sign up as an individual, because we put those kids all in a boat together, let them practice together, and they are in a boat, because we know that youth are the future of our sport. And so we like to teach kids about it, because we won't have teams in the future if we don't get some kids excited about it. So I think it's important to teach kids about the paddling sport and try to get some of them interested in it. So I always try to bring some of those kids along and get some of them interested in it. So if you have any kids out there that would like to learn it, that are 11 and above, send them to the website and get them to sign up, or send their information in, because we want to get some of those kids signed up for the youth team. I'd love to actually have 2 youth boats.
They could go against each other.
Well, we actually have an out-of-town youth team that already signed up. So I already have one. And we have a Boy Scout team that's working to fill their boat. They have most of a boat now. So I'd like to have like 4 youth teams. But I mean, youth would be the future of the sport. So if you've got kids that are interested, we don't charge our youth. It's free to youth to come out and do it that weekend. So, parents can come out and watch their kids paddle that day.
So obviously Peter's not a youth person.
Well, we allow
But
one adult. Well, actually, we put 2 adults in the boat just for some stability.
Order.
So we could put him in with the kids.
Well, how do we get Peter involved in it? Because, some of us need to sign him up to paddle.
and we know a couple of other teams that need some adults in their boats.
Well, I will need some sunscreen first and foremost.
But, it's good for the kids because it teaches them to get along with other kids, right?
Yeah.
And it teaches them good sportsmanship.
Definitely
So,
work together type of sport.
definitely.
Mm-hmm.
So you have like all sorts of different teams there. I guess from your part, you're doing like a lot of community involvement. You're doing some fundraising as well. But I guess like, do these teams, they come in like all shapes and sizes? You said like at a different Dragon Boat, there was cheerleaders versus football players. Here you had mentioned there's a youth team, there's a Boy Scout team. Do we have like, is there like a company team for like, does like some bigger company or some company in town send like the grocery store team or something down there to do something, or are there like church teams maybe or something?
We don't actually have church teams here, but like for instance, Unity Point has a team.
Oh, cool.
Cargill has a team.
Nice.
I mean, so we have several different company teams in town. New Co-op has a team.
Cool.
Nestle's working on a team.
Nestle's working on a team. So we have a number of companies here in town that have teams.
That's awesome. It's almost like slow pitch softball, but boating, out of Badger Lake. That's so cool. So,
and some of these companies, like New Co-op's had a team that every year but the first year. They didn't participate the first year, but they've had a team every year since then.
oh wow.
I mean,
cool.
See, and it's like probably the cheapest sport because, you don't have to buy a boat.
I was going to ask, like, you said you guys have a fleet of boats. Does anybody show up with their own boat?
No. The boats are always provided by.
So, and there's a
having
specific reason for that, because you can't bring your own boat. It's not like a rowing, like sculling or any of those. So in our sport, the boats that you're using for a race have to be the same weight.
Oh, yeah.
They're raced in match pairs.
There you go. So you don't want somebody doctoring up a boat.
There you go.
There you go. All right, that makes sense.
It's like souping up an engine.
Yeah. I just think about like NASCAR when they try and like lighten up the cars in some capacity, or like add, we're going to have a 40-foot long fuel line because we can only have a fuel tank this long, there's nobody doctoring up any boats out at your guys' race.
Well, it's like the year that we had nationals, we had to certify the boats and weigh them. I mean, because that year, there were enough people that wanted to make sure the boats all weighed. And they're like, where do you weigh the boats? And
We took them to a grain elevator.
I was gonna say, yeah, it sounds like a perfect idea.
They're like, you did what? Took them to the scale.
Yeah,
So like how
right up there at Badger. It's
how
open all the
close do they
time.
have to be in weight? Like, because I mean, like if let's say it's like
You said 1,400 pounds, right?
yeah.
Well, those
were the big
this.
boats.
Okay.
These are 400.
Yeah.
Okay, so like what if it's like 401 versus 400? Like
There's a hole in the front, and you just balance the weight.
Oh wow.
oh, okay.
Cool. So
I was
you,
gonna say, I was like, how accurate are these boats?
so you can even them all out still.
Yeah.
And nobody has to bring their own boat, so that's nice.
You can bring your own paddle, but you cannot bring your own boat.
Okay.
But the paddle has to meet paddle
I was
specifications.
gonna say you can't have just like a giant, like the size of this table, like
Yeah.
paddle, and you'd be
Depending on the level of competition.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
All
And
right.
we don't inspect the paddles here in Fort Dodge. I mean, if you showed up with your own, I'm saying you can't use that. I mean, but if it's a serious race, they have to meet paddle specs.
Yeah. So bring your own paddle, but you got to know if it's going to be too big, someone's going to call you out on it probably.
Oh yeah, like at world competition, they measure the blade sharpness, the thickness.
wow.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
So
All right.
Linda and I will actually be going to Italy at the end of August.
We're going to Italy. We're going to Canada. We went to Taiwan. Like
Oh
you guys
my
are doing all the
gosh.
cool stuff. This is so
Yeah,
fun.
so that is kind of cool. We our World Club Crew Championships, that'll be of almost 7,000 athletes. We were selected out of 160 race officials to be race officials. So I'll be one of the chief officials. Linda's timer, I think. Yeah, so it's pretty cool. We're pretty excited.
So are you guys
Wow.
going to go on a gondola ride and bang a drum and yell at the guy to gondola faster?
I don't know, but we're staying around for a while.
So like how often do you go to all these different? I mean,
You
Canada,
have to be-
Italy.
Well, Canada, we're running, so it's kind of a joint effort between our two countries. But the world events, when you want to officiate, you put your name in, and then
You have
it's
to
a
be selected.
selection process. So
Okay. So you guys are very involved in this, not just at a Webster County.
I really
Badger.
don't know how that happened either.
You get to travel the world too. Like
It just happened. I don't know how it happened.
So-
Because I'm also in the IDBF Council, the International Council, which is like the international board. And I'm like, how did that happen? I don't know.
you just
They
woke
get-
up one day and it all just boom.
They
it
get your
happened.
name. It's on a billboard somewhere, I think. I don't know.
But the interesting part about it is I'm on a committee for the International Council, but like those meetings for us, because when you're
Oh,
on
the
a
time
world,
changes.
they're like 4 a.m. in the morning
Oh,
because
gosh.
you know the organizers from Australia, or they're from the one the committee I'm on, the organizers from Japan. So the calls he sets them are there at 4 a.m., but the one Barbara on 2 a.m., 3 a.m. But that's because they're trying to set them with people around the world, but you got to get up to these conference calls in the middle of the night because nobody in the U.S. ever sets them up.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, that makes
I was
sense.
on a call a couple of weeks ago, and they're like, "Barb, you look tired." I'm like, "It's 2 a.m. What do you think?"
Jeez. So we kind of talked about what got you two interested in this. It started out on the river, and then we moved it over to the lake. You moved it over to the lake, and it just kind of stuck. What keeps you guys like coming back year after year to keep doing this? Is it because it's fun to you, or is it just a sort of like a civic duty in some sense as well, or?
It's partially a civic duty, and our fear is if we quit doing it, it'll stop because we can't find anybody to take it over. I have this fear that if we quit doing it, I don't know who will do it. We keep trying to pass it on, the baton, to the next person,
Generation.
and we can't find anybody that wants to take on the responsibility of doing it.
Come on, people! We're talking trips to Italy here. What are we going with?
Yeah, you could go hang out with them in Italy. I mean, what?
It's kind of like a full-time job at times.
It sounds like it, honestly. Like go travel all over the place.
I think some of it scares people to take over. I mean, for me, I had a background as the CEO of the Girl Scouts for many years. So
cool.
I was used to recruiting people as volunteers and raising money and those kinds of things. That's not easy to do, right? Because we rely on our sponsors to fund this event. And that's a hard thing for people to ask people for money. I mean, even Linda sometimes is like, I don't want to ask that person. I'm like, I'll do it. And so it's hard. So like people who aren't used to doing that, it's difficult. So to find somebody to take that on. I think it is is hard.
So is there a way for people to get involved to kind of maybe not necessarily take it over right away, but like maybe they can dip their toe into the opportunity and maybe hopefully grow into
like
that?
volunteer work of some sort?
Yeah, we would love to get more people involved, even from like either as our organizing, we call it a board, but it's really, just an organizing committee. We'd love to get a broader base of people involved in that. Even if you don't want to paddle, you don't need to paddle. You can just get involved in our organizing committee, help us plan it, or to volunteer at the event. So Linda's got a thing on our website for volunteers. You can just click on that, or you can reach out to either one of us. We would love to get some input from people just to kind of broaden it, because we've been doing it for so long, you get a little stale, or you just start doing things the way you always did it. And sometimes fresh ideas are good. So I kind of pushed the window a little bit with that this year, and I kind of changed it up and created.
Change things.
Yeah.
A lot.
So we're having a kind of a street dance this year instead of the concert below the hill, because nobody ever goes down the hill to the band, and it's a perfect amphitheater if you've ever been out there. Yeah, with the stage, up against the water, but nobody goes down the hill to the band. So then the poor band is playing to themselves at the bottom of the hill. So the band's going to be at the top of the hill playing in the parking lot this year. So everybody's close to the beer tent and the food. So I'm calling it the perfect street dance, but it's hard on Linda.
Well, it's hard because it was always such a beautiful venue to look at the band in front of the lake. I mean, it's just a perfect place for the stage.
I've been to a couple shows there. It's great.
It is. It's just, now it will be nice for the racing still, but I just can't visualize the band in the parking lot.
I just felt bad for them, though, to play to an empty hill.
As a musician, yes,
Yeah.
I totally understand. I mean, they're still listening, but they're not in front of you listening.
And that's hard to
You don't
perform.
get that visual feedback, So we talked about registering and volunteering. Both you can do at www.badgerlakedragonboating.com. But we kind of barely touched on this, but what about like donating monetarily or sponsoring a team or something like that? Is that something that people do as well? I mean, you had mentioned you had sponsors, right?
Yep.
The sponsorship is vital to us. And one of the things, there's two things that are really different. The sponsorship has been wonderful. We can always use it. But one of the things that we've done differently this year is we've told our sponsors that our sponsors are important, and we have gone ahead and decided our gate is free. We're not going to charge for people to get in. We want the public to know our sponsorship is what pays the bills. And we've always had a nominal fee at the gate anyway, but we're not charging at all. We want people to know our sponsors are what have paid our bills, and that is what pays the bills. And so the gate is free. There's no admission Friday night or Saturday, so anybody can come out. The concert is free. Come watch the races for free. It doesn't cost you anything to show up. So please come support the event and come watch.
So when they sponsor, do they sponsor the whole entire event, or can people sponsor like a team? Or
They can sponsor a team.
Okay, so they can pay the registration for a team.
Especially that's why I promote the fact that the youth teams are free. They can sponsor a whole youth team, or they can know that their sponsorship money has helped pay for the youth, or they can sponsor, if even some businesses, as we say, we have business, or you can help pay for some of the business. A business can pay for some of the team, because we have some teams in town that are just groups that have gotten together. That we have some smaller teams that are looking for sponsors that can use some help, that are self-sponsored, that are looking for some ways to help pay for them.
And what a great way for Fort Dodge to support such a local opportunity. I mean, this is such a cool event. You guys are, doing this out of your own, free time, and you put so much effort into it. So I'm just going to call out Fort Dodge, like in around Webster County, like why not help out and keep this thing alive and keep it unique for Fort Dodge and hopefully keep it growing,
Yeah, that's what I'd really like to see, is us to grow some more of our local teams. I mean, we do have a number of teams coming from outside the area. It'd be nice to grow some of our local teams again. I mean, some of them are coming back. Humboldt Hospital just called us, this week, and said, hey, can we still on our team? We're like, heck yes.
That's awesome.
So,
Humboldt represent.
That's awesome. So we're trying to, get some more of those local teams back. And like Linda said, we have some great sponsors. And, some of the sponsorship comes with teams, which is awesome. And any level of sponsorship helps, whether it's $50, $100, or $2,500. It all helps, and it makes this event a true community event because, like Linda said, the gate is free. So you can bring your children so long as there's an adult with them, because we're not babysitters. That ship sailed. So long as there's supervision, you can bring your children. You know, it's a nice evening. It's family friendly. There's food. And it's all because of the business community. And we've had some foundations support us that have made this event available, but we need to keep it going.
All right. In order to keep it going, you can do donating and sponsoring directly from your website or get information about that directly from the website as well, right? Speaking of the website, that's something we did here, right, at Spin Market?
Yes, we did.
Awesome. I sat in on a little meeting with you guys and kind of reviewed the website and talked about it a little bit. Cool website, actually. I mean, I'm not trying to be like, woo, Spin Market, but everything was easy to find, easy to understand. It's easy to get around and stuff. One of the funnest things I saw, and then we're going to sidetrack a little bit, is you listed some lodging options because you have so many teams coming from outside of the area that you kind of, I don't want to say like have partnered with a couple of the lodging areas, but there's lodging options available, possibly with discounts if you go to the website and check it out. So anybody looking to travel in this year, make sure you check out the website, www.badgerlakedragonboating.com. So I do also have in here the music. The music you've done every year, right?
We have done music every year, I believe. Not on the river years, but once we moved to the park, we have done music. So
the music this year is Renegade Soul, great band, local. Love them. I've known a lot of those guys for a long time. It's going to be a fun time. So if you're even if you're just into music, show up early, watch some dragon boat racing, check out the music, enjoy yourself for sure.
So Renegade Soul start playing Friday night at 7:30.
Friday night.
And you want to come a little bit early because the Awakening of the Dragon is before Renegade Soul.
Okay.
So if you want to come see the dragon awaken,
So you have to come. That's just such a fun thing. It just seems like such a cool thing to at least get to experience it. I mean,
Exactly.
you have to like.
we
you have to.
introduce the teams and we awaken the dragon before they take the stage. So that's why we, come out a little bit early, find out who the teams are, because we have a little dinner for them. We introduce the teams, and then we awaken the dragon just before they take the stage. So you want to come out and see that ahead of time.
And then the racing is the following day.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
All right.
And here I thought she was going to say get a beer and get something to eat.
Because that's available too, right?
Of course.
All right, let's do this. So
And then we will have some breakfast available Saturday morning if you come out early. So at our concessions this year, that's a little different. And then there'll be lunch on site as well.
So what time do you guys start in the morning?
We start racing at 9.
Okay.
so show up early for breakfast. Show up early on the Friday.
Get dinner, get breakfast.
Yeah,
listen to music.
It is a 2-day
Ride
event.
a boat.
August 9th and 10th, 2024 for sure. So make sure you put that on your calendars. It's coming up quick. It'll be here before you know it. So put it on your calendars. I do want to kind of touch base on so we got a website. Have you always had a website for dragon boating?
Well, not always, but probably for like the last 5-10 years, we've had a website. It just got greatly improved when Spin Marketing helped us.
Have you?
Before that, I tried to do it.
It's not always easy, is it? It's a little cumbersome at times.
It was it needed some help.
Yes. I think that's something that they're so good at. I say they, the web designers here. I'm pointing at Kayla behind the podcast booth there and Mackenzie, but to be able to organize all the data on a website in a fashion that makes it easy for a third party to come in and look at it is it's not always easy because like you said, sometimes you get in your own head and we've been doing it this way for so long and it just looks good like this. We'll just leave it. But then when you get that fresh set of eyes in there, you're like, oh, we could switch this around a little bit and make it look like this instead.
Well, we had some other volunteers that had helped build one, and then we were just trying to drop things into it to keep it up, and they really we were pleased when somebody else helped fill it in because we had another volunteer who built it originally, and then we just tried to just keep it up, and we really needed a refresh look to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm still remedial on making changes. But I don't think Linda's even attempted.
We'll figure it out. We'll get you going.
Look at her face. That was priceless.
Better be watching on YouTube,
These
ladies and
two
gentlemen.
are definitely entertaining alone.
I
So
love it. I absolutely love it. Have you noticed like I want to say like traffic change, or like did you notice like an uptick in people that were kind of like contacting you or getting information from you or registering or involved in any capacity when you started doing a website? Was it kind of nice to have that sort of like almost like digital storefront out there to let people know about more information?
I think that plus the updated social media posts, like we noticed an uptick with the last social media post that you guys did for us as well.
Okay, yeah.
Linda's had a lot of comments on that.
Yes.
man, so when are you guys gonna start selling Badger Dragon T-shirts or something?
You
Right
got-
out of the box. We're
Right out of the
wearing it
box.
today.
So are those just for you guys, or are those?
No,
can
we
people,
sell 'em.
You
We
just
have
sell
'em.
them. All right.
They just came in.
So
We
shit.
As a matter of fact, I probably should put something on the website that they're being available because they're finally available. They should have been available a month ago, but they're available now.
We can get that done for you. All you got to do is let us know, or we'll get it on the website one way or the other. We'll let people know. Make a social media post or something.
Yeah.
But,
All of the above.
So if you guys are just
2024 T-shirts available.
yes, if you're just listening and not watching, you're gonna have to show up to the Dragon Boat event and get one of these T-shirts, or at least just to check it out. If you're watching online, you know how cool they look.
Well, Peter, when
Go
you
check it
start,
out.
when you go and paddle, you can get one for us.
All right, sounds amazing.
It's a challenge for us to make a T-shirt. We have 6 people and nobody's a design expert, but by God, everybody's got an opinion.
That's,
And the other thing is, when you've been doing it 27 years, to come up with something different every year.
yeah.
I mean, after a while, you're like, oh. And then I'll say, okay, well, I saw some I liked. It's, I'll start taking pictures of backs of other event shirts. I'll say, I saw one in Texas I liked. Now, where were those pictures? And I'll
We just troll the internet for Dragon Boat shirts.
yeah. That sounds fun. I mean,
Don't tell anybody.
I mean at that
Don't
rate,
tell anybody else around them.
yeah, we're on a podcast. I mean, at that rate, you could almost just be like taking pictures of any shirt you think looks nice and be like, well, let's do that one, but change it up to make it dragon boating instead.
Well,
Like,
there was an international site yesterday that was trying to sell some. I downloaded a few bags.
See?
But, well, hey, if they're going to sell them for, I don't know, I think it was one of the international sites trying to sell their practice shirts. I thought, hey, that'd make a good shirt. I mean, if Japan wants to sell their shirt, I can take it.
yeah,
I mean,
borrow the idea. Why not?
they called it a practice jersey. I mean,
Use it as the basis for your guys' design. I mean, that happens a lot more than you think in graphic design. It's just like, I like this part of this idea, this part of this idea, this one. We'll throw them all together, and now we've got a new thing.
So random thing, actually, there's actually a book related to graphic design, and it's like Steal Like a Designer or something like that, and it's all has to do with like that. Now we're in the era of like we're pretty much kind of redoing what has been done in the past, but we're taking like a concept from the past and then we're just changing it and modifying it a little bit, and that's kind of still what we're doing. Like, I mean, that's a lot of where creative ideas come from, is taking something from the past and then let's tweak it, let's improve it, let's modify it.
on this shirt had like 6 paddles up and down, on the back of the shirt, and they were in different colors or something. And they looked nice, and that said, "Choose your weapon." I mean, it was.
That's fun.
Now
That's
I want a
clever.
shirt like that.
Well, I thought that might make a good design because you get tired of the same dragon on everything. I thought, hey, that might make a different shirt.
Well, did you know that, Spin Market can do t-shirt designs? I'm just going
No,
to
we
throw
didn't
that
know
out
that.
there.
Why
So-
didn't you tell us that when we were trying
Well,
to come
now-
up with something?
Well, now you know. Look at that.
There you go.
Next year's shirt will be brought to you by Spin Market.
There you go.
So we're talking a little bit here about actually like marketing and things like that, which is kind of, the point of this podcast. It is also to like, market you guys and your guys' event as well. But is there any time in your life where like marketing has impacted you and you possibly didn't even know it was doing it? I guess like for some reason, it always feels like with me, I'm always give the example of food. Food just always sounds good. I don't care. Like I got done eating yesterday and I was just like, ice cream sounds good because I saw an ice cream billboard or something and I went and got ice cream. It was just like a light switch. It just happened. So that marketing works on me very well. I don't know why. How about you guys?
See,
Anything?
that makes me think of Chick-fil-A's ads.
Oh,
Don't you
yes.
think they do it well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
But
They hook me
I
every
think
time.
that's to me that was one of our weaknesses. I'm not good at that. I know that. And I would say that over and over again. So that's why I kind of pushed to come to you guys for a website and for some social media posts because, you know, let's face it, I'm way past the social media age.
I don't know. I would love to see you start doing some, you know, video reels and stuff.
Oh, that would be awesome.
I think it'd be entertaining. You two she's looking at me like,
you two would dominate TikTok. It would be awesome.
You should see us when we're out at the festival for setup. It gets ugly then.
Well, see, now we got to get the camera
what
on
you really need is our third sidekick, my husband, who works with us a lot, because he actually has the offsetting personality, and he does.
I think a lot of what he says can't go on video, though.
That's why he's not here right now today.
We have a lot of beep, beep.
He does have a beep.
that would be true.
We do have a beep button just in case.
Oh, man.
But I do
he does
think
have to keep us under tab.
I do think it's really critical, and you know, as we're much older and the younger generation now, everything is social media. I mean, I had to even push to get our folks to take payment online and things like that. And you just got to keep moving with the time. That's why we need some younger people involved in this. And that's why I think marketing is so important. Everything's online. So,
yeah. Well, especially, I mean, I remember sitting in a conference where I was talking about the new generation of people, and the big thing that I got out of it was like, if you're not willing to adjust with the new and all you're seeing it as the negative, you're not going to improve, and you're just going to get stuck in that.
Well, you're going to be, I was just going to say that you're going to be left behind.
Yep.
And it's like, especially with the whole Gen Z and stuff. And everybody had so many negative thoughts involving Gen Z and who they are. And trust me, there's some things there I'm like, okay, you guys could really do a little bit better. But but in terms of like, if you're just going to see them as the negative, you're putting them in a box that, you know, you're limiting yourself as a business, as an organization or whatever, instead of just seeing them as a positive and seeing what they can offer that's positive and how you can benefit from that era almost. So
yeah, there's no generation that made all good decisions and all good ideas. You can take the good ideas out of the new generation and incorporate it into what you've got going on and make
Keep
everybody
building.
happy.
Yeah, keep building.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, so we're going to say it one more time. 2024 Badger Lake Dragon Boat Bash, August 9th and 10th. The races are on the 10th. The music's on the 9th. You're going to wake up the dragons on the 9th. We're going to get some beers and food and watch some music, and then the next day we're going to get a little bit of breakfast and watch some races.
There you go.
All right. So
and Peter's going to be paddling.
Yeah, Peter.
if you guys need any more information, www.badgerlakedragonboating.com. Let's say that one more time. badgerlakedragonboating.com. It is on the website. All the information you need.
I'm going to shame you because I paddle. So
Oh, okay.
at my age, if I can paddle, no pressure, but
You just got shamed.
I did. I totally did.
I think you can do it.
Getting called out here, ladies and gents. I'm going to have to do a Spin Market team.
Now, I paddled
need
up
a
until
couple more people.
I haven't paddled the last 2 years because I have a bad shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well,
But
you know, she's much older than me.
6 months.
I'm so happy we brought you two in here to talk about this. I knew this was going to be fun when you guys came in for a meeting a couple weeks back. I was just like, this has got to happen. This has got to happen. So I'm really glad you guys are here today.
Hey, can we shout out to some of our key
Absolutely.
sponsors?
Please do. Please do.
Yeah, I think we really want to take a second to thank some of our key sponsors that we've already gotten this year because they really have helped us along to make this a free event. At our platinum level, we want to thank the Catherine Vincent Deardar Foundation and the Fort Dodge Community Foundation and United Way. They've been huge sponsors to our event. And then Cargill at a golden level sponsor. Those three have stepped up and really helped make this event responsible and helped us to be able to have advertising.
Yeah.
You know, they're huge to our event. And then we had the event level sponsors. We have CJ BioAmerica, Fort Dodge Ford Toyota.
They don't really have a choice because I work there.
KHI Solutions, Nestle Purina Pet Care, and Stumps Snow and Mow.
And then our boat sponsors are Blue Ribbon Pelham Waters, Iowa Central Community College, First Interstate Bank, Fort Dodge Noon, Saratoga, Green State Credit Union, Northwest Bank, and Sleep Inn and Suite. And that's a first time for us to have one of our hotels step up and sponsor with us.
That's
and
awesome.
we especially want to thank Prestige Foods of Iowa because they are providing all of the pork for our concessions and our
that's
team
awesome.
dinner.
That's
yeah.
really cool.
That's so cool.
So come out and get some of that pulled pork because it is excellent.
Iowa pulled pork.
Yes. There's
Yeah.
still room for more sponsors and stuff. So if,
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
if anybody here hears this and you're like, well, maybe we should throw our name in the hat and get our logo on some stuff and let people know that we're helping out too. Once again, BadgerLakeDragonBoating.com. Yes, I said it right. And
Or .org, they both work.
when I said it wrong the first time, now I'm second guessing myself. BadgerLakeDragonBoating.com. I'm sure there's a link in the description, so check it out. We're going to go there for sure. Anything else that we missed in this episode?
Try it out. It's great. It's great fun. It's a great sport. We're on the lake every Sunday, 5:00 by the shelter. We actually load now down by the boathouse or boat ramp. So if you want to try it out, meet us at park at the shelter house. We're there at 5:00. We load up and we take the boat down to the boat ramp and load it from there.
And if you don't have a team, there's always teams that are short that day.
Always.
If you show up and say you're looking for a team to paddle on, there are always teams that are short the weekend of the event.
You hear that,
And
Peter?
there are always people that are saying, if they'll say, do you know anybody that wants to paddle? I'm yet to find a year that we haven't needed extra paddlers. So if you want to try the sport, that week before we'll have teams practicing. But if you want, send us your name and information. There's a place where you can get a hold of Barb or myself. If you want to paddle, we can find you a team.
Nice. So even if you're just
Better contact them, Peter.
an orphaned paddler like me, you can still get out there and do some paddling.
Paddler.
Yeah,
Nice.
paddler without a boat to call home. So I don't know. I want to say thanks again, ladies, for sitting down and talking with us. This was tons of fun. I'm looking forward to going to this and at least watching. Maybe I'll get in a boat. You never know.
You know you're in a boat.
Okay, if I show up, I'm getting in a boat, I guess. So swing
You better
out.
be wearing clothes to be in a boat.
Swing out and
so.
wear sunglasses. There might be a little bit of a glare coming
And
off the
if you
top of my dome.
If you don't show up, just so you know, my family has a mafia background, so we'll find you.
All right.
Wow, you're literally getting shamed into
I
this.
love this. I love this. I'm getting bullied into it almost.
Next podcast episode is Peter on a boat.
Yeah. Got like a black eye, arms in a sling. Well, thank you very much, ladies, for sitting down talking with us. I appreciate it.
Thank
Thank you.
This podcast is produced by Spin Market and Digital.
Located in Fort Dodge, Iowa, Spin Market's highly skilled team can help you increase your market by updating your website, improving SEO, designing advertisements, and producing podcasts that will grab the attention of your market.
Contact Spin Market today for all your digital marketing needs at digitalagent@spinmarketwith2ks.com or call us at 515-302-8026. And to learn more, visit our website at www.spinmarketwith2ks.com.
That's digitalagent@spinmarket.com or 515-302-8026 or visit our website www.spinmarketwith2ks.com.